So it's not been a very successful week this, or starts of the week. It's only Monday today. But in comparison to last week, where I came down on the third day and there were people using the space, this isn't the most successful of trips. But like I did in the last video, look at different jumps. They've made some adjustments to some of the gaps and things, so reline up, look at where it's landing, where it's going, do some like composition shots to see what works and what doesn't, so that when someone is here doing the jump I can just ask, and all I have to worry about then is the settings and the sort of style of the photo more than the composition of it. Hopefully towards the summer months it'll get a bit busier down here through the week and I'll be able to shoot a bit more. I'll keep coming down at least once a week whilst I've got the time to. It's a nice bit of exercise getting out and about down here, so it does make for some interesting scenery. There's definitely a lot of lines you can shoot from to of here. So that's day 2 or 3 out and about. Again, a bit unsuccessful in terms of getting here and people being about, but hey ho. The lighting's really good today though, the sun's coming through the trees beautifully. Like, I don't know if you can see down there, it's very bright. I think I can safely say Dirt Jumps 2 has been a bit of a hit and a miss again. Decided to come out a bit later today to see if that made any difference. It's another sort of cross point for learning the sport a bit more. Like, if you know the area that you're working in terms of photography, you'll get better results. And yeah, I don't know what season's best for shooting in this. I don't know the intricacies of it. I understand the sport and I'm a bit behind that, but I don't understand, you know, best season for it, worst season for it. I don't know, you know, I've only visited this spot a few times now, so I don't know when people come here more often or don't come here as often, but we're learning, always learning. So we're not expecting much today again. Don't know if you can see in the sky, but it's very grey over there. It's very blue and sunny over there, but it's very grey that way. But we'll see what happens. So it came out again, not expecting to see anyone here again, because, as I say, the weather's a bit on and off, raining and then not. It's middle of the week, so I doubt people are going to come out specifically for that. You can look at the ground and see that it's all a bit muddy and damp, so you'll lose speed and traction and things like that, making not as enjoyable. But why do I keep coming out? A, something to do, and B, I just need to be wrong once and it might be a good day's shoot. I've got nothing better to be doing at the moment. It's a bit of exercise. It's nice to explore. It gives me time to think, line up shots, practice with the camera settings and things without having other people in the way. Well, not in the way, but you know, me being in the way of other people or dealing with others. Yeah, no one's going to be here today. The ground's too soft. It'll damage the ramps and jumps. Might go photograph some birds whilst I'm in the area. And we'll talk about some settings instead, I think, today. So sorry if the title Dirt Jumps 2 or whatever it's going to be is slightly misleading. No, the goal of this particular set of videos is to talk about sports photography, so it's still loosely based, but this is a bit of an offshoot, I guess. It happens. It's important to record successes as well as failures, and this one's just a bit of a failure week in terms of the outset and the goal. But here we go. Alright, so let's talk about some settings. Am I an advocate for auto? Yes and no. I think it's important to learn manual and how each setting actually affects your camera. There's no point, not understanding what your f-stops do, or your shutter speed, or your ISO, or white balance and things. You need to be able to understand that, so when you see a photo that hasn't worked out quite right, you can assess it, work out where you have miscalculated something, or the camera hasn't done what you wanted, and then you can either correct it or reset it in camera. If you've gone through the rigmarole of understanding manual, I don't see the point on not using some automatic settings or balancing off automatic settings to help you achieve your goal, because that's fundamentally what they're there. The days of film where you had to get, if you were one stop off, that was another half an hour's work in the darkroom you had to correct. You instantly see the photo on the back of the camera, you can correct that in a minute, if that, and then you're off shooting again. So personally, my route to learning photography, I would go shoot film, then shoot digital with mostly automatic settings, so you've got composition and the visual arts aspect, and then go manual and then balance it off. If you're shooting the bike sports, what I like to use is shutter priority, or on Canon TV. I think that stands for like time value, and what that does is it lets the camera do all the sort of maths for aperture and for ISO, depending if you've got your ISO set to automatic. I mean, on bright days, as I said, today's 50-50, it's nice and bright over here, but it's really dark over there. Yeah, bright over here, dark over there. Things like that, I think having it on auto isn't a bad thing, but if it's bright enough, it's a nice summer day, 400 to 100, 100 to 400 ISO should do. You might need to push it more if you're in the shade or in the darker areas where the light's not coming through the camera as well. Shutter priority. I know things are moving fast, things are going to be coming towards me or away from me. They're going to be going at a speed that I don't necessarily know, but I know that 800 or above is going to stop most people moving sort of activities. Cars, you need to be 1,000 up, whatever, concentrating on set speeds. The light's going to change slightly, and that's going to be a pain to keep flicking, changing your aperture your aperture or your ISO. White balance usually set for daylight unless you're using flash, but that's a different set of maths again. By using shutter priority, you're taking away 2 bits of math that you need to worry about, and you can concentrate on one. If you are going to use manual ISO, which is what I like to do, because I don't want it to jump in higher end cameras, you can sort of bracket the ISO or set the ISO to not go past certain points. But if you don't set that in your camera, auto will also look at 64,000th ISO as an option, and if it's like today and you're shooting in the shade and it thinks, I need to shoot that dark, instead of changing your aperture value, you're going to get really noisy, grainy pictures, which isn't the worst thing in the world, and some of it can be removed in Photoshop and post, but you're always better at trying to get it right here first before correcting it later. That's just more work that you don't or might not have time to do. We've all got time at the moment. It's lockdown life. So I like to have a maximum that I'm willing to go to and a minimum that I'm willing to go to in terms of the light that's available. So you've got your shutter, you've got your aperture done, not your aperture, you've got your shutter speed sorted, and you've got your ISO, which leaves, instead of you cycling through different apertures, let the camera do that. You've also still got control over how many stops you want it to go down by using one of the back button commands and then scrolling through. which will then allow you to, effectively control your aperture at the same time. So you're not really losing manual control, you're just, in the times you're not thinking about it, or the times that you're actually lining up the shot and shooting and watching the person come past, you're allowing the camera to do that bit for you, which is an assistance, which is the purpose of having aperture value and not just shooting in manual the whole time. Same thing for wildlife photography. Different people have different principles or different rules, guidelines. There are no real rules to photography other than the ISO, shutter speed and f-stop. Everything else is just a creative option. Some people say, I like to have, I only want to use up to 200 ISO because I want that, crisp, clean, complete image, almost purist sort of settings where, things for Instagram, Facebook and things, no one's going to be able to blow up the image large enough to see, really deep into your shadows sort of thing. You're just looking at it on a 16:9 screen. No one's going to be pixel peeping too much at the image. Does it matter if it's noisy in the blacks or sort of chromatic in the sky? Arguably yes or no, but I don't think it matters too much if it's just an Instagram or that sort of thing photo. So if you can, shoot manual, because you're in control of the image. You can make the creative choices. You might want a nice background blur, which then controlling the other two, you need to full control if you want to get the nice blurry sort of panning shot where the subject is frozen in the middle but the rest of the background is just all wavy. Then manual is going to be better for you. If you can shoot manual and balance off the light, if it is a crisp clean day, not a cloud in the sky, the light's not going to change dramatically unless it's hour on hour sort of thing. Sorry for that awful cut just there. Dog started running up to the camera and would have made it awkward to deal with and edit and all that lot, so I left it, and then it started to rain, so headed back home. Back to this. TV. Where are you going to focus? TV. What does that allow me to do? Well, we've just gone over saying that it gives you the control of the shutter and lets you not have to worry and think about the other settings as much or as hard. Now, that isn't something I condone doing most of the time, but the same as with portraits, you want a nice shallow depth of field with a larger sensor camera. So if you have a medium format, full frame, etc., you can do that a lot easier. But when you're using crop sensors like the 7D, you're already cutting into how much depth distortion you can get. So if I'm shooting portraits, I want aperture value, adjust the ISO, cleaner, not so like grainier skin in photos. You want 100 ISO, you set that in and let the camera work out the shutter. Again, you don't want to go below handheld or the minimum length of your lens. Those are some other questions we'll go into in another video. But you're just cutting down, in a way, your responsibilities. You're still, obviously it's your photo, whatever it comes out like is down to you. But by not having to think about or having to overthink on certain topics, you're allowing your creative goal to get there sooner, and you're just working with the main part of the goal of the image. So sports speed. If you go caving, you might as well keep your ISO as high as it can and let everything else work what it needs to in the difference. If you're shooting in darker and less environments, you're just making it easier for yourself. Having it always in auto and relying on the camera to do and know everything and you to know nothing isn't a bad thing, and it shouldn't stop you from trying to learn. It shouldn't impede your learning. You're going to a wedding, okay, you've had a few days with a camera and you still don't know how shutter speed works. Well, the wedding's more important. Keep it on auto, let the camera work it out. See what those settings are doing and understand, at the ceremony, the lighting was nice, it was coming through the stained glass windows enough. there's no blur, it's all nice. But then when we've gone to the after party sort of thing in the evening and the light's a lot lower, there's a lot more blur. Why is that? Well, shutter. Okay, so when I do this bit next time, I'll swap them two around if you can do it. Disappointed this week that I couldn't show any actual bike jump photos. I've got there's 2 jumps I really want to shoot, but if no one's there, no one's there. Can't be helped. We're going to work on it. We'll go again on the weekend. We might go again. Yeah, hopefully we can get to show you in the next one. I'm going to try to make 2 videos this week, so as to, if Dirt Jumps 3 ends up just being this again, where no one's there or the weather's too rubbish to go out and shoot, I'll still have something for you next week. It might not be Dirt Jumps, it'll be something else photography based. Yeah. Hope you're all keeping safe. Hope COVID's not getting you too down. If you are struggling or need to talk to somebody. It's important. Hope you have a nice day. Speak to you soon. Bye.